Vlad. The people of Louisiana are starting what is sure to be a very long and difficult recovery from Hurricane Ida. As always, the American Red Cross will be involved in that effort. Joining us now is Trevor Riggen. He is the Senior Vice President of Disaster Cycle Services. Good morning to you, Trevor Riggen. It sounds like your services are really going to be needed today. What exactly will you all be doing?
So good morning, Gail. Thanks for having me on. And right now we are so focused on the families in southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi who for the last 24 hours suffered 16 hours of hurricane-force winds, and now we're getting that punishing rainfall over the next few hours, even as it diminishes to a tropical storm. And so we are so focused on sheltering families. There are more than 2,500 people in shelters, over 60 shelters between Louisiana and Mississippi. We have more than 600 Red Crossers on the ground or on standby, ready to deliver services as they're needed, and we expect that number to grow to nearly 1,000 by the end of the week.
What would help you most right now, Trevor?
So as always, financial assistance is so needed right now to make sure we have the resources in place, that we can get the workers and the supplies, the meals, the relief supplies in the hands of those that need it the most. So if you can, I'd urge you to please make a donation at redcross.org. You can also text Red Cross to 90999. And in your own local communities, we have disasters happening all across our country right now. And if you can, please go to redcross.org, sign up to be a volunteer, and join us as a humanitarian.
Other than money, that's what I was thinking. Other than money, volunteers would be a big asset to you right now, you're saying.
They would. We expect, Hurricane Ida is not going to be the last storm of the season, and we will need more volunteers for Hurricane Ida, but there will be storm after storm. We have wildfires all across the West Coast right now where we need more volunteers. And the disaster seasons have just gotten busier and busier as we've turned to more of a chronic pace of disaster in our country. So we need every person we can to join us in that fight. Yeah,
but I keep thinking, Trevor, about Louisiana. Listen, you're dealing with a hurricane. Now there could be a sewage problem. Then you don't have power, and it's hot, that the weather is hot and sticky. What is the biggest challenge for you?
So the power outage that we've seen that was just talked about in this segment, that's going to be something we're going to have to watch very closely as families suffer through the heat of summer, as the risk of another storm potentially over the next several weeks, especially for those most vulnerable, those who can't get out to get supplies, who may be homebound. And so we'll be working with our partners at the government level, but also with community partners to be reaching out to families to make sure they have what they need. We'll also be watching things like water and making sure families have potable water across these communities. So the next few days, as the damage is better understood and hopefully as more infrastructure is brought back online, will be completely critical to the recovery of these communities.
And that's what we keep hearing, too, about the outages there. And the prediction is that it could go on for weeks, not just days. Everybody can get through something for a couple of days, but we're hearing that it could go on for weeks. What are you being told about that?
That's exactly what we're hearing. We're hopeful that some will come back on sooner than that, but the risk is that this could extend for days or longer, especially in some of those areas in southeast Louisiana where the damage is greatest. We do expect there to be long-term power outages and long-term infrastructure issues and rebuilding challenges for those communities. And so the Red Cross expects to be there on the ground, not just for the next days and weeks, but for the next months, to make sure that families have access to meals, to supplies, and recovery assistance.
All right, and how does this affect you, Trevor? I'm always fascinated by people like you who do the job that you do, who get out there in the trenches, who coordinate everybody getting from point A to point B. When you get this word, how does it affect you in the job that you do?
Well, yesterday was a very important day for me. 16 years ago, I watched Hurricane Katrina punish the community in Louisiana, much like the rest of the country. And for me, that was a wake-up call. That was the moment I was inspired to join the Red Cross, to become a humanitarian relief worker. And I spent the last 16 years getting better and better at that every day. And so these days like this, where we have to watch people suffer so greatly, are hard to bear with. But we are inspired. I'm inspired by the work of our volunteers, by the work of our community, and by the partnerships we see that are so much stronger today than 16 years ago in each of these communities. And hopefully families will be better for it.
Times like this do seem to bring out the best in people, too. I never forget that. And punish is the word, Trevor. We all remember Hurricane Katrina. Thank you very much for your time today.